Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Love with MCIF, and I'm back with my good friend of Promisey, John Liberatore. Promisey, the TPA, Promisey 24/7. We never close. Promisey, the group that adjusts trucking losses. And as a friend of mine said, it's one of the few firms that you can count on the hand that does everything right. So congratulations, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. It's cool.
You're welcome. Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, we started our last podcast by agreeing that your family doesn't really know what you do, so we all have that in common, and we like what we do. It is changing, though, right? The loss scenario and the involvement of others. I didn't even understand the term litigation funding the first time that I heard it. I'm thinking, what in the world is that? Can you remember the first time you ran across that scenario?
I can't remember exactly when or where, but I remember hearing it repeated or reading it and thought, I'm not gonna guess at what I think this is. I really need to learn it. And it's not that difficult to figure out if you just follow the money, right?
Liv, you could probably make some money in litigation funding as long as you know who's handling the loss, and maybe that they're not going to be proactive, and the likelihood that, I mean, if I was investing in that field, I'd want to know who's handling the loss.
That's funny. We joke about that because we do a fair number of claim audits, claim reviews, and we interact with a lot of claim organizations. Look, they're not all bad, right? They're well-intentioned people that have a job to do. Unfortunately, a lot of adjusters have too many files. I mean, that's known in the industry. The turnover can be a problem. Goals aren't aligned, like with the underwriter, as we talk about underwriters. But there are some claim organizations that it seems like they're just going through the motions. This is what we do. We're not going to make a phone call. We're not going to be proactive. We're going to wait for a letter from a lawyer because we know it's coming anyway. Well, why do anything? And that's a defeatist attitude, in my opinion.
So a self-fulfilling prophecy almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
As opposed to the word you used in our last podcast, and you just did again there, proactive. So what does it mean to be proactive? What do you think is the impact on a book of business with fine proactivity? Okay. I use the word aggressive in a really positive sense.
Aggressive is a term I don't like to use because I think people misunderstand that term. They think we're going to be skirting the law. That's not what it's about. Let me give you an example. A loss occurs and we know who's involved, or we think we know who's involved. I'm speaking about the third party now, the claimant or potential claimant. And we don't do enough to get a hold of them right away, because there's two questions I'd like to ask. When would you like to know that someone is going to claim an injury? Would you like to know today, or would you like to know 30 days from now? Well, obviously you want to know today for a whole host of reasons, reserving, chief among them. Second follow-up question is, if someone is going to be fraudulent or litigious or predisposed even to getting a lawyer, when would you like to know? Now or later? Now is the answer. We need to know now so that we can react now, instead of waiting for that letter from a lawyer, or hoping that the claimant doesn't get a lawyer, or hoping that, hope is not a strategy, as a good friend of mine says. Hope is not a strategy. There's got to be work so that we know for sure, and we put it to bed. Boom, we're done. Okay. Or we know the direction the case is going to take, and then we can deal with that.
So, as the overseer, spending a lot of time looking at files of others, I'm assuming that you spend a lot of your time looking at serious loss, loss involving bodily injury, loss where an attorney probably is involved often. What do you see as the hallmarks of a way to, I mean, just because there's a lawyer involved doesn't mean we have to throw up our hands, does it?
Heavens, no. No, no, it comes down to the facts. Now, you can have great facts and still have a problem, but it's how you present it, when you present it, who's going to present it, who's having the dialogue with plaintiff counsel, who is plaintiff counsel, do we know them? What's their MO? There's a whole lot of factors you need to ascertain to figure out the best approach on a case. And a good adjuster will do all this just because that's what they do. But yeah, I think if I could take it a step further, having a direct approach with a plaintiff lawyer, if they get involved, when they get involved, having a direct approach is good. Getting on the phone, having a dialogue. Heck, I advocate for serious losses or even semi-serious losses. Go see plaintiff counsel. What do you mean? A Zoom call is good? No, get in a plane, tell them you just happen to be going to be in the area next week. Go in and visit with plaintiff counsel. It's like me walking into your home. I've been in John Love's home. I know a lot more about John Love and his family just by the way he lives. And it's a great home, very warm. But being with plaintiff counsel, you just learn a lot about them and how they view their case, and you share some information because you're going to eventually settle the case, whatever that means. It will eventually settle, and eventually there's going to be negotiations and dialogue. Let's jumpstart it and get it going. Get to know me. I want to get to know you. Okay. What do you got that you think is good? I'm going to show you what I think is good. I'll show you what I think is not so good, vice versa. So that direct communication, I think we cannot overemphasize that. And it's even getting on the phone at the start, saying, look, this is who I am. You can call me anytime. Let's work together and see what we can do here. Does it work every time? No. Most of the time, I would say, yes, it does.
Well, for those of you that are watching and listening, when we use the term proactive, this is what we're talking about. There's not much laissez-faire in your style, John Liberatore.
Can I give you one short example? This doesn't take a nickel. There's no money involved here, right? No effort. I don't need an expense reserve to do this. I can't tell you the number of times I'll be out doing an audit and it's a low speed collision because, by the way, most losses are low speed collisions, even if it's 60 miles an hour sideswipe, that's a low speed collision. Anyway, I'm looking at the file and you get to a point 30 days in and the adjuster says, well, they have an attorney and I'll call every 30 days and get a medical update and ask for a demand. There is that is not the right approach. So one of the questions I ask is, for example, have you sent a photo of the damage, the supposed damage, meaning the minor damage? Have you sent a photo to the attorney? No. Like, why would I do that? Well, that attorney needs to know what the damage looks like. And then you need to start to impart to them that an injury from this collision is highly unlikely. And if we need to, we're going to get an engineer to prove it. That's being aggressive.
You're taking control.
Send a message. Is it gonna cause them to drop the case? No, of course not. But at least you start to get your point across that this dog is not going to hunt, counselor. And you're going to have issues with this because this is what we got. See, if I'm plaintiff counsel, and I think we would do well to take their position sometimes and think about what they do. If I'm a plaintiff attorney and you called me and said, hey, I got hit by a truck, Mr. Liberatore, I was told you can handle my case. I have everything I need. It's a truck. And the truck has a policy of $1 million, right? Assuming it's, that I don't need to be bothered with the property damage. And most of them don't get involved in the property damage. They couldn't care less. Do they see the damage? Probably not. So get it to them and don't, I tell adjusters, it's psychological warfare. If you send it, don't attach it to the email. Embed it directly in the email. So when they open up the email, boom, they see it. And then you can give them your impressions of that damage. Those are the kind of little things that add up. And now we have a reputation of, we're not laying over on every case, counselor, just because you showed up. Okay? We're not just sitting back waiting for a stupid demand.
And I'm assuming that you don't respond necessarily to demands, but you rather make your offer to close when you think it's time to do so.
No, you've heard me preach, I think. Yeah, I was talking to somebody recently, and I was just espousing, what we believe and what we try to do here, and they came back and said, I really liked it when you said that we shouldn't be asking for a demand. Tells me that that's what they do. A lot of adjusters do that because that's what they were taught.
Yeah, what do you want? What do you need?
Yeah, as though we're not going to have an effect on that number. No, we're going to have an effect on the settlement. Don't wait for a demand. Get the medical, have it reviewed, unless you're a doctor or a nurse, get it reviewed by a doctor or a nurse. I'm speaking to an adjuster now. And then determine the value of the case. You got to go from the intangible injury to the tangible dollars and get a range of value, make an offer. Don't wait for a demand. We even tell lawyers, don't bother sending a demand. We'll send you an offer. Just stand by. We'll send you an offer.
Okay.
It puts them on their heels. It's fun. That part of the business is fun. It actually is.
Well, I mean, the reason that you're smiling and kind of giggling is this is why you would enjoy doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It is somewhat akin to going to battle, but I mean, it's fighting a good cause is another thing. Hey,
It
so let
is.
me ask you a question. You mentioned medicals. So we're looking at damages, medicals being a big part of damages.
Mhm.
If you had to state what's alleged versus what's real, kind of as a rule of thumb in your career. I allege damages of X. The medicals are whatever, and let's pretend. And a lot of times they're a lot.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there looking yourself at the file at the side swipe, going, "Wow, that's a lot of medical for that sort of
Right.
a impact." But you know, you got a lot of advantages. You're looking at a knowledge base, but still without the knowledge base, just kind of give me some ballparks here. Real damages versus alleged damages.
People that aren't involved in claims may not, I mean, heavily involved in claims may not believe what I'm about to say. I'll have a case that has 100,000 in medical. Forget the accident for a second. I'll have a case where plaintiff counsel sends over 100,000 in medical bills. And we have those bills reviewed for usual and customary, medical necessity, etc. And we boil it down to maybe $4,000 or $5,000. Yeah, 90, I'm going to say 90% of it. Now, I'm not speaking of the catastrophic, where you have life flight and you have life care plans that are legitimate and people are going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, quadriplegic, paraplegic. Not talking about those cases. I'm talking about the 95% of minor, relatively minor, where every other, they start attaching body parts and conditions that mostly because somebody has some age to them. And yeah, they're going to have a bit of a rotator cuff issue. Why? Because they're 69 years of age. We
Hey,
all
watch
we
it.
all do. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
watch it. My range of motion has improved since the surgery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
But
maybe I should look into.
90% of it, I go into it with that mindset. 90% of this is fluff. And we're going to work at proving that. Now, do we end up at 90%? No, maybe not. But that's the mindset I think we have to have. If it's coming from a plaintiff attorney who is compensated based on a percentage of how high they get the medical and what sticks against the wall, why would we not question everything that comes from them? Absolutely everything.
and the lack of question from some is a advocacy of the type of work product that comes to you, because the industry has a reputation of not aggressively challenging what is presented. I hate to paint with a real broad brush, but
Well,
John,
how
that's
about-
got to be close to true.
How about this? I'm a plaintiff lawyer and I handled a case and John Love was the adjuster. It was a year ago. And it was a minor rear end case. And we settled it for 75 grand, let's say. Okay. Hey, I have the identical case. And who's the adjuster again? It's John Love. Do you think I'm aiming for 75 on this next case? If that's 75, if I got 75 on that last case? No. I'm shooting for 300,000. And I think in total, that's what plaintiff lawyers do. If they hit a home run on a case, why would they reduce or keep level at least their demands and what they're trying to get? No, they're going to be more brazen and more aggressive and all those things because the money's there, and they're finding that sometimes it's pretty easy to get their hands on a lot of money. I see too many times we don't put up a fight, a real fight. And that has to happen really on day one with the investigation. Who are we dealing with? What's their background? And a whole bunch of things. So we need to fight smarter. These alleged, I use the word alleged over and over and over. If somebody tells me about an injury, I say, stop. It's an alleged injury. We'll figure out if it's real. All right.
Liv, a great legacy that you could leave, not just MCIF, but the truck insurance industry before you retire, is to continue this great effort, you and others who've given of their time, to build an army, a workforce of proactive, professional, engaged trucking insurance examiners and adjusters. Because I'll tell you what, my experience says it doesn't matter what you pay them. You can pay them twice what you think you should, you're saving money. Because if you handle the claim right, there's no amount of the expense ratio that will overtake the savings in the loss ratio, is what I'm saying there.
Right. Agreed.
All right.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Well, we're grateful to you, John, as I've said, and I'll continue to say it. And
Thank you.
look forward to seeing you in April at the MCIF annual conference, April 15th.
That's coming up quick.
Yeah, pay your taxes and come to Orlando to forget your taxes, but to learn something about the trucking insurance industry.
Cool. Yeah, I recommend it to organizations a lot. MCI.
Well, thank you so much.
There's just such a knowledge base in that whole organization. Yeah, it's hard to beat. Yeah.
Thank you for another edition of Claims Corner. This is John Love with John Liberatore, the real JL Lib, signing off until next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.